Summer in Moscow is brief, the kind that makes people hurry to enjoy it before the calendar remembers itself. On June 13th, 1975, Gorky Park was a ribbon of light along the river, full of strollers and prams, balloons tugging at wrists, brass music tumbling from loudspeakers that crackled with cheer. No one who walked under the fluttering banners that afternoon imagined how quickly a day can tip from celebration to smoke. The new pavilion rose quickly, a temporary hall of timber and painted panels, draped with bunting and paper suns. The air under the roof was already hot by mid-afternoon, and the crowd pressed tight. Toddlers on knees, schoolchildren with coins in their fists, mothers fanning themselves with programs. Outside the doors, the park moved in bright loops, rides turning, boats sliding along the water, the ordinary noise of people choosing treats and small adventures. Inside, a stage lamp hummed. Someone smiled at a puppet peeking from behind a curtain. A child laughed, and the sound hung in the rafters like a bird. Witnesses disagreed about the first seconds. Some say there was a spit of blue at the lamp. Others remember a scent, a singe, the way air changes just before heat declares itself. There was a wisp of smoke, then a bright lick along the bunting, and in an instant the decorations didn't decorate anything. They announced a fire. Flames raced up the wooden ribs as if they had been waiting all day for the invitation. Paper suns became real ones. The sound in the hall shifted from applause to a kind of unison breath that is not wonder, but fear. Parents turned toward the exits with children in their arms. The exits were too few and too narrow. The first wave moved, then stopped, and those behind surged into them until the crowd was a single animal straining at a door. Heat fell from the ceiling in burning panels. A banner snapped and dropped like a rope of fire. People stumbled, smoke erased the room's shape. A father broke a window with his bare hands and pushed a stranger's little girl through it before he could find his own. A mother wrapped her scarf around a toddler's face and lifted him so he would breathe air that was seconds less poisoned. Voices frayed into coughs. Someone shouted a name until the name sounded like another language. Outside, the sky above the roof darkened. Onlookers ran to the walls and pulled at planks, made openings where there had been none. Children came out of those holes like new breaths, coughing, soot-masked, lifted over shoulders to the lawn. Others did not come. The air tasted of resin and hair. Sirens arrived late and ladders shorter than the problem climbed into smoke, then disappeared. Hoses spit, then steadied. Water hissed on wood so hot it steamed before it cooled. The crowd moved in the way crowds do when there is only one wish and 1,000 bodies to enact it. In minutes, the building's posture changed. The roof sagged and threw sparks into the daylight, then fell with a noise the crowd would hear in their dreams. When the fire thinned, the ground showed rows of shoes, scorched coats, toys welded by heat. People whispered numbers as if any number could be bargained with, 30, 40, 50. The official tally, announced as if read from stone, was 44. Those who were there said the count was stingy, that trucks took away what could not be photographed, that figures were washed before they were written. Parents who went to clinics and morgues met doors more solid than any that had blocked the exits. The state called it a fault, a wire, a short, a technical sorrow. Papers printed thin columns, facts without faces, dates without hours, a gentle assurance that all necessary measures had been taken. What did not fit the line was trimmed away. No mention of exits wedged by benches or doors that opened the wrong way. No talk of untreated wood, of decorations that went up like the kindling they were. Those who asked the wrong questions met the bureaucracy's famous shrug. Grief, they were told, would proceed best if it proceeded quietly. So the truth traveled by kitchen. Over enamel tables and weak tea, survivors traced the afternoon the way a finger traces a scar. They spoke of the crush at the door, of a woman holding a baby over her head until hands on the other side took the child and not her. They remembered a man whose palms were raw from punching through pine. A boy told how a stranger pushed him toward light. When he turned back for his little brother, he could not find him. People compared the smell that clung to their clothes, tar, smoke, something sweet turned sickly, and fell silent when they noticed their own hands shaking. For those who lost children, time split cleanly, before and after. Beds stayed made. A dress on a hook kept its shape for years because no one could take it down. Birthdays became days for counting what was missing. Mothers stood in a doorway with a cloth in their hands and forgot why they had walked in. Fathers carried silence. To be told not to speak of the fire was an extra chamber of the blaze, a heat that did not flicker and did not allow air. There were guilty kindnesses, too. Strangers lifted children hand to hand like buckets passed down a line to a well. Teenagers, soot-eyed and shaking, guarded little pyramids of shoes and coats so they could be claimed. A nurse from the crowd fashioned bandages from her own blouse. A policeman who had a son the same age as a boy he carried lost his hat and never went back for it. These details never made the page the state preferred, but they felt truest to the day. Much later, some of the paper seals loosened. In the Union's last years, as censorship thinned, accounts appeared that sounded like the conversations the city had been having with itself all along. Engineers spoke of lumber stamped in a hurry, of plans submitted and approved in a single morning because the schedule demanded it. Firefighters admitted the hoses failed at first, pressure took minutes to build, and ladders fought smoke and collapsing ceilings. Officials who had signed the papers remembered very little and said so very precisely. Somewhere in the footnotes of those hearings, you can hear the same small sound that began the fire, a hiss, a spark, a choice. There is no ceremony that can square the ledger of such a day, but people make their own rites. A woman carries a ribbon in her wallet that once tied a gift she had bought on the way to the show. A man keeps a ticket stub in a book he opens only on the anniversary. A family lights a candle in a window that faces the river and lets it burn down to a small pool before pinching it out with wet fingers. In photographs that never saw print, faces are soot-masked and eyes are wide with shock. In apartments, a drawer holds a program with singed corners and a smudge where a child's thumb pressed. These are not exhibits. They are memorials. Listen long enough, and you can still hear the day as it was meant to be. The brass band slightly off in the second verse, the laughter after a puppet missed its cue, the little gasp when a balloon slips its string. You can also hear what followed, the roar that replaces music, the rip of wood, the animal sound humans make when they run out of choices. The first set of sounds belongs to the city we prefer to remember. The second belongs to the city that exists when preference has no vote. Ask the park, which has held both laughter and smoke, and it will give you back wind moving in trees that have forgotten the exact year, but not the heat. Ask the river, and it will keep its counsel. It has seen worse, and will see better, and in between it will carry boats full of people who never learned this story. Ask the families, and they will tell you a time, a seat number, a scarf. Mourning is detailed work. The fairground burned down to its questions. In the end, what remains is simple. A June afternoon, a roof too eager to burn, doors that remembered they were narrow, children lifted toward light by hands that did not ask whose child they were. The rest is paperwork and grief, and the way a city learns to say the thing it was taught not to say. Thank you for listening to Road to Ruins. Subscribe for more true stories where systems fail and people pay the price.